Alright, I hope this isn't too loud. Hope this isn't too quiet. You could always turn up your volume. Alright, so I have an idea and I want to share it with you. I want to make it right now, but I don't know. My idea is has something to do with RNG, right? Making RNG without really using this block here. I mean, technically you will, but I want to make it predetermined, a deterministic RNG. So when the same things happen in a game, the RNG calls will be the same. For like, that'll be good for like tasks, making your games taskable. So I don't really know what to name this list. I'm making an array so that we can just cycle through indexes of a table. You know what I mean, right? Of course, you're really smart. Okay, so we just do RNG seed right here. And the RNG seed, I guess we can just make that an advanced. We could just make it an advanced function. Really simple function here. I mean, it's gonna be so crazy. It's gonna be so difficult to understand this insane function here. I mean, we might as well use equal to 101, but at the same time, I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable to not use a greater than 100. So I'll just do that. So that's our advanced RNG function here. I guess this isn't very self-explanatory, but I kind of show you around what I'm doing here. And we have a list. I mean, we're gonna throw this list away anyway, so I guess we'll just call this other list RNG index, or do I want to call it lookup table, RNG lookup table, but we're not gonna write table because that's too long. Man, RNG, the RN just looks like an M. I don't like it. It just looks like MG. Let's just capitalize that. And so, huh. Yeah, okay. So, when we want to call RNG, it'll look something like this. We'll just take our RNG seed. First, we'll advance RNG, and we'll calculate our RNG seed. I'll just make some like reusable variables here. We'll advance RNG, and we'll store our RNG into there. Okay. So we just look at the lookup table, right? And every time we do this, we advance RNG. Should I advance RNG before or after? I think I'll do before. And we'll always just set RNG seed to 1 at the beginning. So I should probably actually make the table. That'd be good. So A is a temporary table. That's not really gonna. It's not gonna live. It's not gonna live so long. We're just gonna build it and we're gonna tear it apart. Okay. It's just gonna have numbers 1 through 100. And yeah. So I believe this should just work. Numbers 1 through 100 right here. Cool. So, and now I will do another thing here. It will just repeat 100 times. And we will select a random number based on our temporary list here. Item 1 to length of A. So the last, and any number between the first thing and the last thing, we're going to select one of these. And actually, we're not going to use this value at all. Well, no, actually we are. I think I have to store the value because I'm going to have to reference it twice. I'm going to store this value. Actually, we need to store the random value. And then we can now reference what the value actually is, so we can add it to our RNG lookup here. And we also need to delete from A afterward. If we delete from A before, we're going to have a problem where it's not going to be able to read and write that information. And we do this function here, and huzzah! All the numbers from 1 to 100 are now scrambled in a list of 100 things. Each integer 1 to 100 has an equal chance, let's say. It's not really chance. But anyway, so now I have my tables. I could delete list A, but you know, I'm going to keep it because it's kind of here. When I go to add thing to A on accident, I misclick. I'm not adding to like any valuable information tables like the permanent RNG lookup table that I just made. So if I were to like do this, right? I set 1 to 43, 2 to 14, right? Or we could just do this, set 1, and we'll just cycle through the indexes. Okay? So that's cool. But why would you want to have these little numbers, right? When you're asking for a random number, you're not going to want a number 1 through 100 necessarily, right? That just doesn't make sense. I feel like I'm talking too fast. Well, whatever. Modulary division, or we just call this modulation of numbers. And it just says mod here. So let me do a little funny. Let's do mod 2 of 0. Let's modulate 0 at 2. Let's do 1, 2. Okay. I hope you can understand what that is. I hope you can see. I hope the quality is good enough for you if you read those. Every other number when we modulate by 2 is going to give us a 0 or a 1. You know what? I'm being a bad teacher. This, essentially, if you can remember what remainders are, all this is division, but instead of giving you the answer, we give the remainder. So, right, this is remainder 1 here. If we modulate by 100, you can see we just get the value. But the moment we go over 100, it's like we subtracted 100 from it, right? And the moment we go over 200, we subtract 200, right? So it kind of like keeps things concealed in a pattern of there are 100 values that can come out of this function, right? No matter, well, no, I mean, as long as we input an integer here, there's only 100 values this could output. So if we modulate, let's say we modulate by 2, the output of this RNG, right? Right now, we're getting a 0. Yeah, so if you do modulate by 2, that means that an odd number will give you 1, and an even number will give you 0, right? So yeah, if we modulate our RNG output, right, we're going to get random numbers. And modulating, we can modulate by any value as long as it's under the size of our list. We will be able to get random numbers within the scope of what we want. Now, if we're modulating by 10, that means there's 10 possible values, including 0, okay? Which means if you want to modulate by 10 and have the outputs be numbers 1 through 10, you'd have to add 1 to it so that the lowest number, right, is 1. And the highest number then becomes 10 instead of 9. And so you could probably make the RNG lookup table bigger or whatever you want to do. But I particularly wanted to I wanted to make RNG deterministic in a certain game, I guess, right? Thinking about my game Static. Particularly, I made a replay engine for Static. And what I noticed was that the game has a system of displaying objects where it uses random numbers to create sort of, I guess, effects, right? I don't know what to call them. I guess static effects, but they're not really static. They're lines that get drawn. And when the RNG would call values that made the lines longer, it would actually process the game at a different speed because more pixels had to be filled. And so I wanted to come up with a way to make deterministic RNG without well, no, just deterministic RNG that wouldn't need this function because, I mean, it is deterministic technically, but I'm not going to be able to repeat that. I'm not going to be able to reset this thing's RNG seed. Right. Maybe I could do this. Things are definitely moving in there. I modulated it by 10, and now, yeah, it's a 10 by 10 box here that these points can land within. If I want to modulate this to 100, which actually means it's not really modulated at all, we can make the box bigger. This is kind of how static works, but not really. Yeah, not really at all. Because static was more like you had a value for the y value, right? And then there was just 2 points. So we could probably just do this. This is more like what static does. If I could make, I don't even know if you can see it, dude. Wait a minute. Make the pen size thicker. This is kind of like what static was doing. And so, yeah, this looks pretty random. I mean, there's still an issue of processing is going to fluctuate the game. Processing is going to, that doesn't make sense. That sentence didn't make sense. Well, it's going to fluctuate against FPS. That's what I meant to say. So, yeah. You can obviously, you could do any kind of math you want, right? You could multiply these values up to do whatever you'd like. You could subtract, you could add to position them. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. What am I even talking about? Why do I care to explain this? I don't know. I guess I make projects like this, but I feel like it's not really that interactive. Like people really don't understand what I made or why I made it. Maybe I should just make a game. I like make something where all these things can be appreciated together. But will anyone really care about the deterministic RNG system? I don't know. Maybe.